week, which is with the upcoming Labor Day weekend. We know that that is a weekend that many individuals and families are celebrating together, and we want to make sure that everyone understands that COVID is still very much present in our communities, that there's still a lot of COVID in our area, and people are getting infected every day. And so what we really would like to do is encourage everyone to celebrate Labor Day, but make sure that they do it safely. And the safest way to celebrate Labor Day is in your own home with the people who you live with. Now, if you go outside, we encourage you to go to places that don't have a lot of people so that you're able to maintain social distancing and stay as distant from anyone else who doesn't live with you. And we also encourage that if you have any gatherings, to limit both the number of gatherings and the number of people who attend. The fewer people who come to a gathering, the better. We know that some people may host things like backyard barbecues or picnics, and I do want to emphasize that being outside is definitely safer than being inside. And as long as you're outside, distant, and keeping a face covering at all times. One of the difficulties is that when you're eating and drinking, you have to take your mask off. And so that's why the safest thing to do is not to gather with others outside of your household. But if you are gathering, to do it outside and do it from a safe distance from each other. Another point that I wanted to bring up is that often when people have gatherings, people congregate inside in the kitchen to help with food preparation and drinks and that kind of activity. And we would really ask that only the host be in the kitchen, that guests do not help out with any sort of food preparation or drink preparation or anything like that. That really that you limit your activity to outside, to outdoors. Now, however, this is kind of an interesting weekend because there is also a heat advisory, and so we want folks to know that to be careful of the heat. So watch yourself, make sure that you're staying hydrated if you're outside, and in some cases it may be actually safer to just stay indoors away from the heat. And so at this time, I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Has there been an increase every time there's a major holiday? Has there been an increase in infections in the county?
Yes, what we've noticed is that after the Memorial Day holidays and the July 4th holidays, there has been increases in COVID in our county, and this has been a pattern that has been repeated throughout the country. And so we are concerned that this Labor Day weekend, if people don't take steps to reduce their risks, such as staying at home or keeping socially distant and wearing masks, that we may again see another increase after this holiday weekend. And so that's what we're trying to prevent.
Would it be a good idea for folks who want to stay cool but are having a get-together in the backyard to purchase big fans or to have ventilation? Would that help?
I think the safest thing to do would be to not have a get-together, of course, and then the next safest thing to do would be to have it outdoors. Now, in terms of fans, I think fans are appropriate to use, except there's no guidance in terms of how exactly the fan should be set up, and you don't want to necessarily have a fan here where then it blows the air next to someone directly into someone else's path. So I'll just caution everyone about that possibility. In general, you never want to be downwind from someone because the virus could be in that air.
Anything you want to add that you think the public needs to know beyond what we said?
I think that one of the things that we've encountered is that we've been in this pandemic for months now, and so people are starting to let their guard down. And I think it's really, really important that you don't let your guard down yet. There's still a lot of COVID in our community, and so we want to do our best to keep each other healthy. now's not the time to let your guard down, even though we all want to. I think we can take steps that are not too difficult to reduce our risk, and those steps include wearing a mask, staying outside if you're gathering, and keeping your distance from anyone else who's not living with you in your house. And by taking those steps, that will help reduce the risk. Again, don't let your guard down yet. The COVID virus is still very much in our community.
Thanks, Dr. Han.
How strong is our? I mean, how strong is that? I mean, how on a scale 1 to 10, how strong is it?
Well, I think that, in terms of the virus, we saw a decrease back in May, and then it increased again in June, July, August. And so at this point, that's where we are, is we're in this phase where the virus continues to circulate widely in our community, and we need to take precautions. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so as a reminder, we want everyone to check our Facebook, the county's Facebook, our social media platforms, and regularly check the website, sccgov.org/coronavirus. We're going to be providing information about cooling centers. For this weekend, we will continue to provide information about COVID status updates. There was a question earlier about on a scale of 1 to 10 how severe it is. We are currently in the strictest, highest level tier. And according within the state's framework, we're at the purple tier. So, we're still at the height of whatever measures are in place to evaluate the status of COVID in our community. So it's a very sobering fact, and I hope that everybody remembers that and keeps that in mind this weekend.
We're getting close, because yesterday there was a statement from the CDC saying that to prepare the states that a vaccine is coming by November 1st. Your reaction?
At this time, we have no comment in response to that. Any news and conversations about a vaccine is still under development, and we certainly want to make sure that we have complete information before we release that to the public. But at this time, please stay safe heading into the Labor Day holiday weekend, and we're going to have, for our Spanish language audience, we're going to have a speaker come up now. Ricardo will be joining us to provide the same information and answer any questions from our Spanish language media press. Oh, yes. So the question was, how will the pandemic affect the cooling centers? So all of our cooling centers are being operated in accordance with our social distancing protocols. These are the protocols that can be found at COVID-19prepared.org, and it's required of every single facility, business, and organization that is open to the public. We hold ourselves to the same standards that we would expect the public, and we are going to make sure that our cooling centers are COVID prepared.
You have to limit the capacity. What's it
It's reduced the capacity of each cooling center is in accordance with the density limitations of the social distancing protocol, and that may mean that we have more cooling centers. And now the stand-up of cooling centers are still in process right now, and we certainly will take that into account. Thank you for the question. Okay, Ricardo, lead operations.
Buenas tardes. Utilizando las lecciones aprendidas del Memorial Day Weekend y también del Día de la Independencia, hemos aprendido que los gatherings de la gente, cuando se reúne afuera de casa con gente con quienes no viven, eso ha aumentado el número de casos de COVID-19 aquí en nuestro condado de Santa Clara. Es por ello que los oficiales de salud han emitido tips y consejos para cómo mantenerse seguros durante este fin de semana largo del Día del Trabajo aquí en el condado de Santa Clara. Empezamos más que nada recomendándoles y recordándoles la importancia de mantenerse con la gente que viven. Entonces, si quieren pasar este fin de semana, por favor, traten de pasar este fin de semana con personas con las cuales ustedes viven. Ya sea que vayan a conocer un nuevo sendero por las montañas, pueden tener también un picnic afuera en un parque, o ir a la playa en lugares donde las playas estarán abiertas. También les estamos recomendando que el exterior es mucho más seguro que los interiores. Es por ello que si ustedes van a tener una reunión con gente con la cual ustedes no viven, es importante que la mayor parte del tiempo se la pasen afuera en los exteriores. Y eso también incluye en las áreas de cocina. Si por ejemplo muchos de nosotros los latinos nos gusta congregarnos a ayudar a preparar la comida, y lo mejor es que esto pase afuera, ya que debido a que se tiene que asignar un anfitrión, y este anfitrión puede llevar los alimentos y las bebidas afuera, porque adentro hay espacios reducidos donde la gente muchas de las ocasiones se quita las mascarillas faciales o los tapabocas, aumentando el riesgo de la propagación del virus del COVID-19. Una vez más, les queremos recalcar el uso de del cubrebocas, siempre y cuando ustedes no estén con gente con las que ustedes viven. Si van a salir fuera de casa o si van a estar con el público, por favor, usen su cubrebocas. También les estamos recordando que se comunique de antemano con aquellas personas que van a estar en algún grupo que ustedes están organizando, ya sea en un parque. Por favor, discutan con ellos las medidas necesarias para también poner en cuidado y tener mucha precaución para ustedes y con la gente con las que ustedes viven. Por último, les queremos recordar que si usted se da cuenta que hay alguien que está enfermo, no asuma que los síntomas de tos o gripa son relacionados con algún tipo de alergia. Es mejor tomar precaución y es mejor retirarse de esa persona, mantener al menos 6 pies o 2 metros de distancia, al igual que usar su mascarilla facial. También les queremos recordar que este fin de semana, de acuerdo al pronóstico del tiempo, también vamos a estar teniendo otra ola de calor, lo cual el clima va a ser un poco difícil para permitir a las personas que estén afuera, e incluyendo con las cenizas que tenemos de los incendios forestales alrededor de nuestra área. Entonces también les recordamos que posiblemente aquí en el condado de Santa Clara la manera más segura de protegerse a usted y a su familia es quedándose en casa y manteniendo también su distanciamiento social y usar sus coberturas faciales. Gracias.
Una pregunta. Estaba mencionando que durante los días festivos es cuando hay más contagios, y ahora con reuniones familiares. ¿Por eso se hace este aviso?
Así es. El día, de acuerdo a los registros que tenemos de nuestros seguimientos de contactos, hemos aprendido que muchos de los nuevos casos vienen a través de las reuniones con gente que vive fuera de la misma casa. En este caso puede ser con mismos familiares o amigos, y la evidencia que tenemos es acerca del día de Memorial Day Weekend y también del Día de Independencia. Tenemos toda esa información en nuestra página web. Tenemos lo que se conoce como un dashboard, donde usted puede ver fecha por fecha, de acuerdo al aumento de casos que hemos tenido desde ese entonces.
I'm going to stand over here. Okay. So the question was whether we were going to increase enforcement. So we do have an enforcement unit in place, but at this time, the county is taking an education-first approach. The residents of our county have proven before that we were able to crush. Sorry. The residents of our county have been able to demonstrate and prove that we're able to crush the curve. We flattened it before, and we can do it again. So, before we start launching enforcement, we really want to take an education-first approach for providing as much information as possible, just because we know that that approach has been received well. When our residents have information, when they have access to all of our data on our dashboards, when they hear from our doctors and our public information officers, we have good results. So yes, there is an enforcement unit in place. It's really focused on willful business practices right now that are allowing indoor dining or large indoor activities, which is really what we want to restrict and prevent to slow the spread of COVID. But I'm not going to tie enforcement to our Labor Day weekend activities. What we do is we continue to have opportunities like this to provide information and to make sure that our folks have access to cooling centers and also to resources throughout the weekend. So please continue to check our website and our social media platforms regularly. I'm going to turn it back to Ricardo to help provide that response in Spanish.
La pregunta fue acerca si vamos a aumentar los niveles de enforzamiento en el condado. Y ya tenemos un equipo el cual está trabajando en visitar ciertos lugares, pero la forma que lo estamos haciendo es de una forma educativa. Estamos trabajando con negocios, con ciertas locaciones para asegurarnos de proveer y investigar cuáles son las razones por las que ellos no están siguiendo las medidas necesarias y cómo es como nosotros como condado podemos ayudarles a seguir estas medidas. Y por favor les estamos recomendando también que visiten nuestra página web y nuestras redes sociales para que encuentren la información necesaria acerca de lugares donde pueden refrescarse, donde habrá aire acondicionado para la comunidad.
¿Me das un nombre otra vez y apellido, por favor?
Ricardo Romero Morales,
¿Y cuál es su cargo?
Deputy Public Information Officer.
¿Sabes cuántos centros van a estar abiertos? ¿Centros de enfriamiento o como les llaman?
Do we know how many cooling centers will have open?
Not at this time. We're still standing them up.
No en este momento.
We'll have more information by tomorrow.
Y toda esta información la van a encontrar en nuestra página web y también en nuestras redes sociales.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you, Ricardo. Okay, so at this time we're going to end the media availability if there's no other questions, and we're going to be filming our message in multiple languages. If y'all want to stick around and get some coverage of that, feel free to. More than welcome to. Thank you, everyone.
I had a feeling.
Better.
Thanks again for coming out.
Should I take it off?
Hang on, just a sec.
Oh, that looks funny.
Oh yeah, sure. Did I do? You want to drop this thing?
Oh. Sanitize your hand. To be safe.
This good. I think that's about all we can do without.
It's okay that I look at the.
Hey, my sugar bomb stopping by.
Real quick.